Hello, trustees of the Mendocino Land Trust. I'm CKramer. Thank you for your interest in me for your executive director position, and thank you for the opportunity to visit Mendocino next week. I'm really looking forward to it. Well, my assignment is to outline what my top five priorities would be and what my deliverables would be if I become your new executive director. And I'll also talk about my experience too. Um, I do want to say, though, that I understand that as an agent for the board, my first duty is to manage and lead the Mendocino Land Trust as you direct me. And I will also be the high energy, self directed, wise leader that you are looking for. Okay, so my top five priorities for my first year break down into two internal priorities and three external priorities. One of the two internal priorities is to successfully onboard myself through strong leadership and management and robust administrative performance and strong internal managerial performance too. The other is to update and pursue a new and well-conceived strategic plan. My three external priorities include making dramatic improvements to the MLT's partnerships, fundraising, and outreach. Every executive director of every nonprofit and every land trust must execute these same five priorities every year, every month, and really almost every day. They are virtually the whole job description for every nonprofit executive director. That's why I chose these five priorities, although there actually is no other choice. Pursuing these five priorities is exactly what I was doing every day for my 20-year nonprofit leadership career in 7 organizations, the last 3 being land trusts. As I go through my 5 priorities, please keep in mind that I have this extensive 20 years of experience and 10 years in land trusts almost, so I won't repeat it for every priority. That would be repetitive. And I guess my career has been kind of repetitive in some respects, but I'm inspired, I always have been, by nonprofit missions, especially land conservation. And I really enjoy doing that work, especially the people, all who love what I love. What's not to love about a career like that? Okay, so let's go through my top 5 priorities. Let's start with one of my internally focused priorities: to successfully onboard through strong organizational leadership and strong internal managerial and administrative performance. This includes building all of my important internal land trust relationships with staff and trustees and volunteers and probably contractors, assuming a responsibility for all the administrative infrastructure and making improvements therein, while supporting the programs and the programmatic staff who are the ones who are directly pursuing and accomplishing the mission. This means that I will take up the leadership of the organization quickly but thoughtfully so that the operations continue to lead to mission success. And I'll be making sure to support the program staff and give them whatever they need to do their jobs well, empowering them to lead at their capacity. And I'll also be doing a full but rapid organizational assessment so that I can identify weaknesses, needs, risks, gaps that need to be addressed either right away or a little later, so that I can have confidence that there are no threats within the foundation of the organization as I try to leverage that foundation and those resources to push the Land Trust mission forward. My deliverables for this priority include having a strong performance reviews of me at 6 months in a year, maintaining and improving MLT's regular rate of successful land protection, restoration, and public access projects, and my completed in-depth organizational assessment and a plan to address internal issues. I've gone through this onboarding process 7 times in my career, so you can expect that I'll get it right. My other internal priority is strategic planning. It's a high priority for me to lead the process and update the Mendocino Land Trust strategic plan, which is expiring. This includes ensuring input and debate from the Land Trust's leadership, its allies, its partners, its stakeholders, to consider how the land trust should respond to threats and opportunities for its mission. Of course, with the pandemic, there's probably a lot of threats that'll impact the way the land trust does business for a while yet. I'm hoping that there are also some new opportunities we can take advantage of. So my priority is to ensure that the strategic plan is updated my first year. I would be more than capable of serving as a facilitator as well, if necessary. I will ensure that the finished project or product is also detailed down to goals and tasks and deadlines for the responsible and responsible parties, along with providing updated annual work plans and job descriptions for the staff and board committees and any other parties that are going to help pursue the plan, so that we can ensure that we have some timely implementation to the plan goals in the years ahead. But I also want to take the plan a step further. I would guide the development of the strategic plan to make it a living document. It's a technique called real-time strategic planning, which I've studied and which I really see the value in. It's a tool that we build ourselves. It helps us to evaluate how we should react strategically rather than just react to any new challenge or opportunity that was unforeseen during the planning process. I've created new strategic plans and pursued them task by task over 20 years for all 7 of my nonprofits, and I've served as a facilitator a few times too. So let's talk about my 3 external priorities now. The first one is to build partnerships that will help MLT accelerate mission success. I'll start by reviewing the Land Trust's current partnerships along with the already identified partnership opportunities. I'll talk with board and staff members to set priorities for these meetings, and then I'll schedule meetings with these partners and partner prospects. I'll begin by building relationships with the leadership for these partners and identifying opportunities to build synergy. I would also be looking for potential partnerships for land conservation, coastal access, restoration projects, joint outreach efforts, and ways to expand our mission inland. And of course, I'll also be looking for partnership opportunities for MLT's goal of improved conservation land use planning in Mendocino County. That'll be a top priority. So my deliverables in partnership building are simple. Real progress on developing partnerships that will accelerate our mission, and real progress in developing partnerships that push for countywide conservation and land use planning. Okay, so another one of my external priorities is to develop a robust fundraising program. I plan to radically improve the Land Trust fundraising program, especially its major gifts program. Developing the organization's membership program is also a high priority, and it's a year-end, it's year-end and spring appeal programs is another important goal. Additionally, I will cultivate relationships and seek funding from foundations and other large funders, and especially those with whom we already have a relationship, but others as well. With regard to improving the major donor program, I'll start by introducing myself as soon as I arrive to the most important major donors and funders in the most personal way I can, given the social distancing. I'll be developing the fundraising programs. It's right away. It's obviously it's an immediate and critical need. So I'll be prioritizing building these relationships with Land Trust donors as soon as I arrive, especially since come year end, I'm probably going to be the best person to solicit many of them for major year-end gifts. Concurrently, I will be directing focused back office work. I'll ensure that I have the focused back office talent experienced in donor management software, which is essential to significant improvement in fundraising success. This talent could also be a remote contractor, if necessary, a specialist in donor management software. There are many available, and they are not too expensive. I will also work closely with this talent throughout the summer and the fall, as it is a critical need to be ready with a compelling snail mail, email, social media, and year-end appeal, and major donor solicitation strategy so that we can launch an integrated, flawless year-end appeal in November. So, as far as my first year fundraising deliverables, let's start with funders. I'll begin the process by building relationships with MLT's current and frequent grant funders immediately. Next, I'll deliver the completion of 4 or 5 grant requests to high priority funders. I'll write these grants with input from appropriate staff or volunteers or allies, and to gain funding for organizational capacity building. And so this could be things in the areas of communications and advertising and outreach, volunteer development, and educational programming, and also for recreational and preserve management infrastructure, maintenance on property, signage, and monitoring of land trust owned properties, and possibly even conservation easements. I'm assuming that the land trust is already successful in securing funding for ecological restoration and ecological monitoring. I'll also implement every one of Side Street Consulting's recommendations, all of which I've done many times now, except for that I didn't need a consultant. I've just done this so many times now. Another important deliverable is an actual increase in the total dollars raised, of course, so let's talk a little bit more about that. Normally, when I take over the leadership of an organization, I would have no concern at all about committing to a deliverable of achieving at least modest improvement in fundraising in a fundraising program of average strength. I am successful at this because I have more energy for fundraising than most nonprofit executive directors, as my resume shows. In the case of the Mendocino Land Trust fundraising program, with its apparent weaknesses, as assessed by Side Street Consulting, I would normally be able to accomplish rapid improvements in fundraising and significant improvements. My many years of fundraising experience are highlighted in my success at White Rock Conservancy, where I achieved an average fundraising growth rate of 35% annually over 3 years, in a program that averaged an 8% growth prior to my arrival. However, with only having 4 months to improve the Mendocino Land Trust fundraising program before the appeals go out in November, and in this environment, I just can't commit to any specific fundraising improvement deliverables by year end. However, if things get more back to normal, then I can commit to very significant improvement compared to recent pre-pandemic years. For this year, all I can say is consider my fundraising accomplishments. Whatever fundraising improvements can be accomplished this year, I will accomplish. So, well, let me talk a little bit about my fundraising experience. I have written for lots of grants for land trusts from both public and private sources, some being very large. However, most of my time has been spent into leading the major donor acquisition, cultivation, and solicitation program, along with membership development and major fundraising events. I've also hired, supervised, and worked with very closely 4 different professional veteran directors of development and communication. This was really great training for me because I also served as the development and communications director a total of 4 years during my career across 4 different organizations, sometimes when I was also the executive director. Okay, so my third external priority is communications and outreach. This goes hand in hand with building a foundation for continued fundraising success. It also builds engagement in the mission with the organization and increases visibility. It can improve MLT standing with populations that don't typically support conservation. Outreach and communications help to achieve some aspects of the land trust mission directly through volunteer recruitment and educating people about the importance of conservation to their way of life. It also encourages them to take specific actions that support the land trust mission. I'm a strong forward-facing organizational leader. I like to be the face of the organization, probably just because I like people, but also because I think it makes a difference. People like to get to know the leader of the organization, I believe. You'll find me spending a lot of my personal time doing outreach as well, since I'm frequently out on the trails myself. where I'll be talking to people who are actively connecting to the land and the environment. I will work with any of the staff and the volunteers and allies with expertise in local outreach and communications, and possibly a public relations firm to complete an outreach and communications plan. I will then seek funding for the communications budget. This can be through a capacity building grant, a targeted a major donation, which I would solicit, a corporate a sponsorship, or it could be a collaborative communications project with partners. Some of the challenge will be to generate continuous and compelling website and social media content with photos and especially film. I also have energy in this area, and I'll marshal all the staff and the volunteers and any other allies and stakeholders to continually generate compelling content. My communications and outreach deliverables then will be to develop and fund a communications plan and budget with specific outreach and communications metrics and goals around the achievement of a significant increase in the land trust's local and online visibility and engagement. Once the pandemic recedes, my deliverables would include accomplishing a significant increase in participation at outreach events, many of which I could lead myself. Finally, I would become very active and visible in the larger Mendocino County community. These would be my 5 top priorities for my first year with the Mendocino Land Trust. Again, to successfully onboard through strong leadership and management, updating and pursuing a new and well-conceived strategic plan, and making dramatic improvements in the Land Trust partnerships, fundraising, and outreach. On a final note, pursuing these 5 priorities never ends. They are always important for the future of the organization, and new priorities typically don't displace them for long. These will also be my top 5 priorities 5 to 10 years from now with the Mendocino Land Trust too. Well, that's it for me. Thank you for listening. I'm sure all of these topics will be part of the conversation when I'm with you next Wednesday. I'm really looking forward to it. Thank you for your consideration, and I will see you soon.